Hello and welcome to the cabin of the Subaru Solterra, Subaru's first ever full battery electric vehicle. It goes on sale price from about €51,500 and from about €56,500 for the more well-spec'd touring model. So it is one of the more expensive electric cars. There's a lot of competition in this market. It was co-developed with Toyota, so yes, it does look very like the BZ4X and it does share a lot with that car as well, but there are also some subtle differences which I'll go through in this video. Subaru is a small player in the Irish market, but people who drive Subarus, they absolutely love them. They've got that rock solid feel, of course the legendary 4x4 capability as well. Subaru is a company that became very famous in the 1990s for a little car you might know called the Subaru Impreza. They are of course famous for the flat 4 boxer engine. The pistons look like as if they're boxing each other. So they're a little bit sporty, they're a little bit rugged and off-road as well. So what about this Solterra? Well, it's definitely got a better name than the BZ4X. Solterra means sun and earth. It comes to market as all-wheel drive as standard. So they're not bringing in a front-wheel drive model like in the Toyota. I do think this is a little bit prettier than the BZ4X, even though they are very similar. But they have tweaked the front end. You've got this iconic Subaru hexagon grille plate. You've got different headlights with headlight washers, and there's also the same aerodynamic scoops around the side. 18 or 20 inch wheels, and they have those extended wheel arch covers which are a little bit controversial, but I actually think they look quite nice with this Harbour Mist grey pearl finish. At the back you've got 2 individual lights as opposed to the full width light bar on the Toyota. This is very well kitted out for off-roading. You've got grip control, you've got an X mode for deep snow and mud, you've got 210 millimeters of ground clearance as well. So I'd say of all the EVs, if you found yourself in a muddy field, this is the one that you'd probably want to be behind the wheel of. I know I would. Because the Subaru, you feel like you want to drift it or do something a bit sporty with it, and it is surprisingly sporty behind the wheel. If you didn't know it was battery powered, you might think it's a flat 4 because of this low down weight. So the battery actually, this really suits it, and the way it's integrated into the car, you do feel very much at one with the vehicle as well. Is, guess what, just like the Toyota, except for this Subaru badge here on the steering wheel. Now that's no bad thing, it's got a nice solid feel, and Subaru's always had good quality interiors, but this one has a little bit more style. Got nice fabric there in the dash, and then there's also a gloss black. Got a nice leather wrapped steering wheel as well. It's actually quite a compact steering wheel, and you look over that at the full digital driver display, a little bit like in Peugeot cars. It does take a little bit of getting used to, and I do find that I sit a little bit higher here than what I usually would in a vehicle like this. So it is worth getting behind the wheel just to check that out for yourself. You get this large touchscreen. It comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and if you go for the touring model, you've got wireless smartphone charging in this handy little compartment. This also has buttons and switches to operate the ventilation, so it's actually really easy to use. There are two trim levels, Limited and Touring. They do come very well equipped. Standard features include heated front and rear seats. There's a digital rear view mirror. There's a 360 camera. Lots of standard safety features. If you go for the Touring model, you get things like the double sunroof. There's the wireless smartphone charging. And there's also this full synthetic leather upholstery and a Harman Kardon sound system, which sounds amazing. Now the BZ4X has paddles to adjust the regenerative braking as well. You don't get that in the Toyota. It also has a sport mode. Look at you, Subaru. And it is a little bit sporty. I have to say, the way this handles is so nice. The way it goes around corners. It's not perfect though. So while it is relatively comfortable for an electric vehicle, it does feel quite upmarket in its ride quality. There's quite a lot of road noise. You'll find that in the Toyota as well. That's a bit annoying for a car at this price. When it comes to boot space, you've got 452 litres. You've got a nice wide opening here and a low sill. So I do think it's a good practical boot. There's also a little bit of underfloor storage for your charging cables and a cover as well. Just like that. It's a bespoke EV, so there is loads of legroom. You've got this flat floor, the width of the cabin, and even the width of the rear seat seems good as well. Headroom is not so bad either. You've got creature comforts like heated rear seats in this model. It's got USBs, vents, there's pockets in the back of those seats, and there's also an armrest with some cup holders and a place for a mobile phone. Things that I'm not so keen on, well, I do think you could do with a little bit more thigh support. The floor is quite high, this is quite low, so you do have a bit of a gap here behind your knees, but if you put your feet out, it's not so bad. You can kind of recline in these seats as well. They have a reclining function, so that helps you to get a little bit more comfortable. And it's also really well finished back here as well. The biggest problem is probably battery and range, really. And I think you feel it more here than in the Toyota, because the Toyota, I suppose, is a slightly more efficient front-wheel drive. And the one I drove was also on 18-inch wheels. This is on 20-inch. It's the dual motor all-wheel drive. So there's a lot of stuff against it. It's a 71 kilowatt hour battery, 64 kilowatt hour usable, just like the Toyota. They say the range is up to 463 kilometers, which would be decent, but in real world driving, no, it's not. So consumption is quite high. I'm averaging about 23 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That would put me on track, if you do the maths, for about 270 kilometers. So yeah, I've been feeling a bit of range anxiety this week, particularly on those longer runs on the motorway. If you're just tootling around town, it's not such an issue, but because it's a 4x4 Subaru, you're probably going to want to go on an adventure in it, so it's all a little bit counterintuitive. The other issue that I have with it is that when you turn on the climate control, the range readout drops, not by 10 or 20 kilometers, by 40 or 50 kilometers, which is terrifying stuff. DC fast charging is up to 150 kilowatt, and there's AC charging 7 kilowatt as standard. Now that's okay if you're charging at home. Most people are using a 7 kilowatt wall box, but if you stop at those 22 kilowatt chargers in Irish towns, it is very slow. You'd want to be leaving your car there for a few hours. It doesn't have an 11 kilowatt AC like the Toyota does now as standard, so that's a little bit disappointing, but it only really makes a difference when you're trying to use those 22 kilowatt. At home, it won't be such a big difference. Yes, you can travel distances in this, but I don't think it's the best long-range EV on the market, certainly. You'll get much better range for similar money and less. I suppose that's the biggest problem. There is so much I like about this Subaru, but there are a few problems with it. So that's all from the cabin of the Solterra. Hope you enjoyed this video. You can read more about the Solterra over on changinglanes.ie. I left a link in the description below the video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.